Over the few days since my last video, we've had a lot more action from the Trump administration. Action if you're a fan, chaos if you're not. A tariff trade war with our closest trading partners and neighbors, Canada and Mexico, put on hold for now. Trump's constant chatter about making Canada the 51st state. Entire agencies being more or less shuttered, specifically USAID. Courts putting a freeze on Trump's unilateral freeze of federal spending. Elon Musk and his so-called Department of Government Efficiency being given access to the government's bill payment system and presumably all the information contained within. Geez, Trump even ordered a military strike on the Islamic State in Somalia. Somehow I missed that one. These are quite heady days when dishing out war and death or sideshows. But sticking to my recent theme, I want to make sure that we don't miss the really dangerous stuff in all the noise. That we keep in focus what's truly an existential threat to the Republic in all of this. And that's the increasingly centralized and personalized power of one man flying in the face of our democratic traditions, values, and boy, even that little thing called the Constitution. Let's have a brief recap. I've covered these before, but they bear repeating. The January 6th pardons. Trump, by letting off the thugs who attacked and invaded the Capitol, has set in place a precedent and a legal process by which organized political violence, all in service of one man, can be gotten away with. The politicization of law enforcement and oversight. Trump and company continue to purge the FBI, the Justice Department, and other governmental agencies. Recall that it's traditional to leave many career federal employees in place from one administration to the next. That's so the government can have a competent, independent set of people to conduct the nation's non-political business. Top FBI officials have been cleared out, and career prosecutors have been fired, mostly for being involved in the January 6th investigations and other cases involving Trump. Previously, more than a dozen inspectors general, think of them as internal affairs, have been fired. By the way, the legality of most of these is questionable because of civil service protections or requirements of notice, but whatever, right? The respective unions are helping to push back on a lot of this. Now combine all of that with the ever-expanding soft purge of federal employees. Trump and company are working overtime to make more federal employees at will. That is, they can be fired at any time for any reason. It could be for good cause. But with Trump, it's just as likely, if not more likely, to be for not demonstrating sufficient loyalty to him. A lot of federal employees face a choice this week, by the way, going by the name the fork in the road. They can accept what's being billed as a buyout or face getting cut later. Again, the point here is to clear house and install your own people. People you control. But wait, there's more. Now combine all of that with the undermining of Congress itself. Trump famously put out an order to freeze all federal spending. That's since been rescinded for now, but it goes right to the heart of the Constitution. Since, well, forever, Congress has held sole authority over the quote-unquote power of the purse. In other words, Congress decides how and how much money to raise in taxes and how to spend it. Once spending plans are passed, it's the law. But Trump and company have decided, they'll decide how much, and to whom to give federal money. It's going by the fancy word impoundment. Keep your eyes open, because even though the freeze was frozen, this is highly likely to land at the Supreme Court. We could witness, with a bad ruling, the further empowerment of the president at the expense of Congress. By the way, this is happening with the blessings of the Republicans in Congress. Whether it's due to being a true red MAGA cultist, or whether they feel threatened in their seats or even physically, they're all lining up to sacrifice one of the key checks against a president's power, the power of the co-equal branch of our elected representatives. Let's be clear about one other thing, too. Republican voters want this. Huge margins of Republican voters, like 3/4, approve of most of what Trump is doing, including the pardons and having Congress step aside. So, Congress is cratering in the face of centralizing power. The courts have held firm so far. That said, the courts can't do anything about those crazy tariffs. But on the tariffs, I'm not so bent out of shape about the policy itself. We'll deal with what comes, and we've used tariffs in the past. But the style definitely has one-man rule vibes about it. You see, Trump can do whatever he wants in that area on a whim. No checks, no balances. That's bad enough. But there's another danger. You might have noticed that the countries he has most threatened with tariffs are allies. In other words, fellow democracies. Sure, he's included China in the tariff war, but he's going after friends like they are enemies. The danger here is an enormous unwinding of goodwill built up by the U.S. over decades of global leadership. We're stronger together. But faced with a dick and a bully, sorry, most people will stand up for themselves, dismiss you, and find new friends. That won't end well. Speaking of dicks and bullies, I haven't yet talked much about Elon Musk. In case you haven't been following this one, his Doge department has been freely wandering the federal government. Nominally, it's supposed to be rooting out fraud and waste and so on, and that's fine as far as it goes. But again, sticking to the theme of centralizing power and undermining our system of checks and balances, this guy has, at best, questionable authority to do any of this. He's not elected. He's not appointed and approved by the Senate. Hell, they even had to repurpose some small-time federal group to even make Doge a thing. The only authority he has is that which Trump gives him. Authority that Trump is assuming, even over parts of the government that were created by Congress. And it's getting really close to the bone here. In the last few days, Musk's Doges apparently demanded complete access to the central payment system of the federal government in the Treasury Department. Again, the idea is to find wasteful spending. But it also means Musk, and I guess Trump too, has access to every detail of every payment made by the federal government. Ever gotten a check from the feds? You're in. Does your company do business of any kind with the feds? That's in too. So, an unelected, quite frankly, unbalanced, ultra-billionaire with all kinds of government contracts and competitors who do business with the federal government can rummage around freely. No, thanks. And guess what? A career Treasury official objected and pushed back. This past week, he was forced out. See how the purge works? So we have ever-expanding, centralized power in one man's hands with loyalty tests and a compliant Congress. Is this what the Founding Fathers had in mind? Does anyone recall that we got rid of a king? We're headed to authoritarianism here, people. It's a clever move in most political discussions to ask, well, how would you feel if the other party did this? Normally that works pretty well. For example, Republicans, how would you feel if the Democrats did this? But we're starting to get beyond even that. We're creating precedents and allowing a system to be created that leaves power unchecked, regardless of the party. We're enabling one-man rule, and that's the unwinding of the republic. Good luck, America.